Tet Aleph. Says
Let's
Rabbi Keith.
start off with Yud Beis Gimel.
Okay. Good base Gimel. Good base Gimel. Okay. One who writes two letters, whether in his right hand or his left, whether one character or two characters, whether with two inks or in any language, is liable. Rav Yossi says they declared writing two letters liable only because of marking, for thus would they write on the boards of the Mishkan to know which ones were mates. Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi said we find a short name which is part of a long name. Shem from Shimon and Shmuel from Noach, Shmuel, Noach from Nachor, Dan from Danel, and Gad from Gadel. One who writes two letters in one period of forgetfulness is liable whether he wrote it with ink or with orpiment, with vermilion, with gum, with fervous sulfate, or with anything that marks on two walls forming a corner or on two pages of a ledger that can be read together. He is liable. One who writes on his skill is liable, and one who scratches on his skin, Reb Eliezer holds him liable for a sin offering, but Reb Yeshua exempts him. If one wrote with liquids, with fruit juices and road dust and scribe's dust, or with anything that does not endure, he's exempt. If one wrote with the back of his hand, with his foot, with his mouth, or with his elbow, or if one write one letter alongside a written letter, if one wrote over the other writing, or if one intended to write a chet but wrote two zions, if one wrote one letter on the ground and one letter on a beam, or if one wrote on two walls of the house or on two pages of a ledger that cannot be read together, he's exempt. If one wrote a letter as an abbreviation, Rabbi Yeshua ben Sarah holds him liable, but the comment exempt him. Okay.
Okay. Carrying
Now,
on with writing two letters. Akosef shtei osios b'shnei helemos. So he wrote the two letters in two bouts of forgetfulness.
mhm.
Um, Achas shachris v'achas bein harayim. Even if one was in the morning and one was in the evening, Rabban Gamliel mechayev. So we give the extreme case over here to show the koach of Rabban Gamliel. Because Rabban Gamliel says he apparently holds that there's no such thing as two periods of forgetfulness on one Shabbos. If you wrote one letter in the morning and said,
Yeah.
"Oh, I shouldn't have done that," and you came back and said, "Oh, I was busy writing this," and you wrote it, and again, Rabban Gamliel says that's one Maaseh Shabbos, and you're chayav for that. Chachamim potrin. So, and I would say that Chachamim would be potter even if your two periods of forgetfulness are 5 minutes apart where somebody said to you, "Hey, why are you writing? It's Shabbos." And you say, "Oh gosh, it's Shabbos," and then a little bit weren't focusing and started writing the second one and "Hey, what you doing? It's Shabbos." Oh my gosh, that was the second letter. So even then would say that you're pater. So it doesn't matter how much time is in between, according to them, and you're pater. And Rabban Gamliel conversely says also it doesn't matter how much time is in between, you're always chayav if it's on one Shabbos. Okay. Perked Gimel. Rabbi Eliezer Omer ha'oreg shlosha chutin batchila ve'echad ala arig chayev. So if somebody is weaving, so now we're talking about the malacha of oreg, is
Mhm.
so how many threads does he have to thread in order to be chayev? So at the beginning of making a garment of making a piece of cloth, Rabbi Eliezer says you need three to make it take. Otherwise, it's not a solid piece of cloth. But if you already have a piece of garment that you're busy working on, then even one extra stitch is adding to it, and therefore you're chayav. That's Rabbi Eliezer. Chachamim omrim bein betchila bein basof shiuro shnei chutin. So it doesn't matter. Two stitches
Yeah.
is the shear. In other words, down and up.
Right.
And that would be that's your shear for chiyuv, and it doesn't matter whether you're starting out or you're in the middle. By the way, the commentators pick up that bein basof it's not dafka basof. If you're making the last stitch that finishes the garment, then everyone agrees that you're chayav, because that's
Right.
a patish. Okay. Ha'oseh shnei bate nirin. Okay, so this is just you have to use a bit of your imagination. Sorry, I don't have a picture here for you, but we've seen this before. The way the old looms used to work was that you had the two heddles, and you had pedals that would move these things up and down. So
Right.
you've got these threads inside the frame with a hole in the middle where you push your threads through. And they're sort of interspersed with each other between these two things, and you move them left, right, so that the one at the back goes up, and then the one at the front goes down, and then you put your shuttle through the middle, and you switch sides so that the threads move up.
I have a picture here. I'm looking at the picture.
You've
I have
got
a picture here.
okay.
Yeah.
Just hold it up to the camera. That's not the picture that we're looking for. We're looking for the loom. Um,
Oh, so, all right.
Yeah.
This
So
is
anyway,
specific.
but the way the loom works, so those two things there, the whole the thread that goes inside the frame and has a hole in it for you to put the thread through, that's called a bait near. That's called so if you make two of those on the loom, that is called that's the malacha, and you'd be higher for that. But
Okay.
keros, if he puts two threads of the warp into these things, right? That's the so what if you thread two of them, that's also chayav in the malacha. And now we totally switch context into a nafa and a kavara and a sal. Nafa and this sifter and the sieve. I'm not sure what the difference is between a sifter and a sieve, but we keep using these two different terms. So I'm not really familiar with the difference between them, but they're used for sorting different. I think at different levels, there might be a different level of coarseness in the nafa and the kavara. Um, but basically making the what's similar to this in is if you're making the sifter and there's a weave in that sifter, right? Because you've got that grid that sifts things through it. So if you make the weave with so you make two threads through the weave, or in the basket, even if you're making a basket, also there's a weave over there. Two times, that's chayav. Hatofer steht viros. Also, if you're sewing, two stitches makes a malacha. Korea al menaslit for steht viros. And also, if somebody tears, sometimes you want to make a dart, is what the term is called. I hear my wife talking about this. Right. So if you've got a flat piece of material, but you want to shape it, so you cut it so that you can pinch it together and make some shape in the material, right? And if you cut enough that you're going to make two stitches to put it together, that's chayav. Okay, and that's back to Perik Tes Mishnah Aleph.
Said Rebbe Kiva, from where do we learn that an object of idolatry transmits tumor contamination by carrying like a menstruate? For it is stated, cast them away like a menstruate, go out, shall you say to it, and just say to it. Just as a menstruate transmits tumor contamination by carrying, so does an object of idolatry transmit tumor contamination by carrying. From where do we learn that a ship is not susceptible to tumor contamination? For it is stated, the way of a ship in the midst of the sea. From where do we learn that a garden bed that is 6 by 6 may be sown with 5 types of seeds, 4 on the sides of the garden bed and 1 in the center? For it is stated, for like the earth, it will give forth its plant, and like a garden, it will cause its seeds to grow. Its seed is not stated, but its seeds. From where do we learn that a woman who emits semen on the third day is tummy? For it is stated, be prepared for 3 days. From where do we learn that we may bathe an uncircumcised, a circumcised infant on the third day, even if it falls on Shabbos? For it is stated, and it came to pass on the third day when they were in pain. From where do we learn that a strip of red wool is tied on the head of the goat that is sent out? For it is stated, for if your sins will be like crimson, they will become white as snow.
Okay.
Okay. And
Prim.
we have Orla, Bikurim, Aleph, Aleph. Some bring Bikurim and recite, but do not recite, and some do not bring. These do not bring. One who plants into his own, but sinks a shoot into that of an individual, or that of the public, and likewise he who shoots a shoot from that of a private or of the public into his own. He who plants into his own and sinks a shoot into his own, but a private or public road is in between, such as one does not bring. Rabbi Yehuda said such one does bring. For what reason does he not bring? Because it is written, the first of the first fruits of your land, only if all the growth is from your land. Tenants, lessees, a sikaron, and a robber do not bring for the same reason, since it is written, the first of the first fruits of your land. One does not bring Bikurim from another of the 7 species, not from the dates of the hills, nor from the fruits of the valleys, nor from oil olives, which are not of the choicest. One does not bring Bikurim before the Shavuot festival. The men of Mount Sivo brought their Bikurim before Shavuot, and they did not accept these from them because of what is written, and the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field. Okay.
Okay. Trimos.
And, okay. Olive base. A deaf person who can speak but does not hear may not separate truma. But if he separated, his truma is truma. The cheres spoken by the sages is always one who can neither hear nor speak. A minor who has not produced two hands, Rabbi Yehuda says his truma is truma. Rabbi Yossi says if he has not reached the age of vows, his truma is not truma, but after he has reached the age of vows, his truma is truma. And one may not separate truma from olives for oil or from grapes for wine. But if he did separate, Beit Shammai says they are truma for themselves. Beit Hillel says that truma is not truma. Okay, and we go on to Taharos. Okay, hey base. If one said, I touch this object, but I do not know whether it's Tameh or Tahor, or if I touch one of the subjects, but I do not know which of the two touched, Rabbi Kiva rules him Tameh, but the sages rule him Tahor. Rabbi Yossi rules him Tameh in all these cases, but rules him Tahor in the case of the path, for it is the way of people to walk, but not the way to touch. Regarding two paths, one Tameh, one Tahor, if one walked in one of them and then prepared Taharas, and they were eaten, it was sprinkled once and again, and immersed and purified himself, and then walked on the second path and prepared Taharos, they are tahar. If the first taharas are still extant, then those are separated, are suspended. But he did not purify himself in the interim. The first is suspended, and the second should be burned. Regarding a sheretz and a frog in the public domain, if someone touched one of them and prepared taharos, they were eaten, and he immersed, touched the second object and prepared taharos. These taharos are tahor. If the first taharas are still extant, these and those are suspended. But if he did not immerse in the interim, the first taharas are suspended and the second taharas should be burned. Okay. And Menachos. Okay. This is Vav Gimel. All mincha offerings which are prepared in a vessel require three applications of oil, pouring, mixing, and placing oil in the vessel prior to their preparation. The chalos, however, one mixes them. These are the words of Rebbe. But the Chachamim say as fine flour. All chalos require mixing, and the rikim are anointed. How are they anointed? Like a cheh. The remainder of the oil is eaten by the kohanim. All mincha offerings which are prepared in a vessel require breaking into pieces. The mincha offering of a Yisrael, one folds into two, and the two into four, and separates them. The mincha offering of the kohanim, one folds into two, and the two into four, and one does not separate them. The mincha offering of the anointed Kohen, he did not fold. Reb Shimon says the mincha offering of Kohanim and the mincha offering of the anointed Kohen are not broken into pieces since they do not require kamitza, and whatever does not require kamitza need not be broken into pieces. All of them are an olive's vine. Okay.
One more.
All mincha offerings require 300 rubbings and 300 poundings, and the rubbings and poundings are to the wheat. Rabbi Yossi says even to the dough. All mincha offerings are brought in groups of 10 loaves, except for the lechem apanim and the chavitim of the kohen gadol, which are brought in groups of 12. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. But Meir says they are all brought in groups of 12, except for the loaves of the Todah offering and the Nazar offering, which are brought in groups of 10. Okay, and we're going to finish this tomorrow. And excuse me,
we finish
the next volume. Yeah, next volume. Yeah.
The next volume. So you've got 2 volumes of Menachos. Yeah.
Right. Okay, Menachos.
Nadarim. We're in Nadarim now. Test Gimel.
What do I have? Oh, wait. Oh, I put my knuckles here ready for tomorrow. So
yeah.
Okay. Nadarim. Gimel. Reb Meir says these are things which are not like unexpected developments and not like unexpected developments. The sages, however, do not agree with him. How? If one said, Cohen, am I marrying so-and-so, and because her father is evil, and they told him he died, and he had to prevent it. Cohen, and this house was defected to my entering because an evil dog is in it, or because a snake is in it, and they told him the dog died, or the snake had been killed. These are the things which like unexpected developments, but are not like unexpected developments. The sages, however, do not agree with him. Reb Meir also said that they can find ground to annul his neder from what is written in the Torah, and they say to him, if you had known that you transgress, you shall not take vengeance, or you should not bear a grudge, or you should not hate your brother in your heart, or you should not love your fellow as yourself, or that your brother may live with you.
You should love your fellow as yourself.
That your brother may live with you, or perhaps he will grow poor and you will not be able to support him. Would you have vowed? If he had said, I had known that this was so, I would not have made the neder. It's been admitted. If they find grounds to annul a man's neder by reason of his wife's ketubah, it happened once that a person made a neder prohibiting benefits from his wife in a ketubah with 400 dinars. He came before Rabbi Akiva, who obligated him to pay a ketubah to her. He said to him, Rebbe, father left 800 dinars. My brother took 400 and I took 400. It's not enough that she should take 200 and I 200. Rabbi Akiva said to him, even if you have to sell the hair on your head, you must pay her ketubah for her. He said to him, had I known that this was so, I would not have made the nether. Thereupon Rabbi Akiva permitted her. They can
Interesting, like
find grounds.
imagine the marriage thereafter. It's like Rabbi Akiva says,
Yeah,
you can cancel your neder, you don't have to divorce her. And he goes home and says, so what's for dinner?
it doesn't work that way most of the time. Okay, thank you very
Okay.
much. I will see you tomorrow. If anything happens and you're on, we're on. If not, we'll wait for later. Okay,
Okay.
have a great day. Thank